April 27th, recognizing and releasing resentments. We want to look our past in the face, see it for what it really was, and release it so we can live today. Basic text, page 29. Many of us had trouble identifying our resentments when we were new in recovery. There we sat with our fourth step in front of us, thinking and thinking, finally deciding that we just didn't have any resentments. Perhaps we talked ourselves into believing that we weren't so sick after all. Such unwitting denial of our resentments stems from the conditioning of our addiction. Most of our feelings were buried, and buried deep. After some time in recovery, a new sense of understanding develops. Our most deeply buried feelings begin to surface, and those resentments we thought we didn't have suddenly emerge. As we examine these resentments, we may feel tempted to hold on to some of them, especially if we think they're justified. But what we need to remember is that justified resentments are just as burdensome as any other resentment. As our awareness of our liabilities grows, so does our responsibility to let go. We no longer need to hang on to our resentments. We want to rid ourselves of what's undesirable and set ourselves free to recover. Just for today, when I discover a resentment, I'll see it for what it is and let it go. I'm Herb the Addictaholic. This is just for today. And, one of the resentments I had was for my biological father. He bounced at a young age, 3-ish, something like that. And then went to prison, so he was in prison for the majority of my adolescence. And then when he got out of prison, he went back to alcoholism and ended up living at a park. He was a park bum. And then he made it back to, Vegas where he lived. And so I went to go stay the summer with my dad and my grandparents. And, I had a brother and sister out there, and he asked me to stay, so I stayed, and then he never put me in school and just let me run amok, put a tattoo on me. I was young. Anyways, I thought from way back, I'm good without him. He's a prison junkie, he's an alcoholic, he's a violent person, he's never been there. I don't need him. I'm good without him. Look how well I'm doing without my father around. And then I have an awesome stepdad, who took on the role and actually brought a little order to the chaos that was our lives for so long. My mom was struggling as a single mother, trying to go back to school and work night shifts and, take care of 2 kids. It was tough for her. And so I ran amok. And then my stepdad came around and brought some order to the chaos. So I'm like, I got a cool stepdad. My mom, she's hardcore, but she takes care of business for the most part. We're taking care of, at least the necessities, right? So either way, I thought I'm good. And as a matter of fact, I'm better than, I'm better than my dad. I'm going to be better than my dad. I'm going to do more. I'm going to live life in a better way. I'm never going to become an alcoholic or an addict, I'm not going to be as violent, or I'm not going to go to jail, all those things. So doing the 4th step, it brought a lot of that back. And the realization, in this program has helped me to realize these things. I wasn't over it. I was sweeping it under the rug. I was self-medicating. I was numbing myself, and I was telling myself all these egotistical things to help me think that I was better than, but I was actually heading down the same path, in different ways, but the same path. Ultimately, I was an addict and an alcoholic, and I was abusive, at least emotionally, verbally. I didn't beat my wife, but every other way that I could abuse her, I did. And I was abusing myself. I was causing wreckage around me. So I was ending up a lot the same, even though I said I never would. And I thought I'm better because, I went to the military and I got a college degree. And, what was I doing with that? Nothing. My father, he's a mechanic. He could be an awesome mechanic. He has his certificates and stuff that he got before and during jail, and he did nothing with it after, instead drank his life away. But the thing is, he wasn't there for me, and I thought that I was over that. I thought that I had moved past it, and I didn't consider that a resentment. Oh, I don't resent that. I'm good. I moved past it. But going through the steps and really thinking about it, a lot of my internal turmoil has been from my dad not being there. Whether or not him and my mom were together, he wasn't there, and still isn't today. And so that's something that I buried, but it was there festering, and it caused a lot of my abandonment issues, codependency, anger, nervousness, fear of rejection, like all those things. And there's more. There's a ton of stuff that all came from, or comes from my dad not being around. And I thought I was over it, but I was not. And so I have to really look deep, dig deep, and sometimes it doesn't appear right away. I could go through 180 resentments that I write down in this list on the 4-step, and then months later, one pops into mind, and I'm like, oh, I've been carrying that one too, and that's why it's a continuous process. And the practice of putting pen to paper begins the process. We're not all gonna figure out all our resentments out in a day. It's gonna take some time. And sometimes we develop new ones and we don't realize we're developing that new resentment. So to constantly take a look at where they're coming from, it makes a big difference. And it helps to let it go, because it's a weight off, and it allows us to be free and not be weighed down with all that negativity. Thank you guys for coming out. I know this was a long one. I hope to see you tomorrow. Keep coming back. It works if you work it.